Hello, this guide is aimed at Highlander players and teams who want to improve at Payload Upward. I will individually cover each point on Upward as I discuss some effective ways to push and hold each point. At the end of the video, I will also include some overall ideas to focus on while playing Upward. For pushing first, the often overlooked aspect is just making sure your eyes are open and you're looking out the spawn doors to see where their demo's putting traps or where their sniper's set up, or if you can happen to see their spy. Once you're out of the gates, there's really two main schools of thought on how to push first. The first one, which I've had less success with over the seasons, is having pretty much everybody except for your med and your sniper go for a suicide play, and they do their best to coordinate it between the soldier and the demo and the spy to usually focus on killing the gun or getting a force on the combo. Oftentimes you'll see the demo just walk forward spamming or bomb with the soldier up top and try to stay out of the vision of the defenders by being up really high in the sky, and then everyone else will just sort of get in where they can. For me, this push style has always seemed a pretty low percentage success rate. And the second option that I've had a lot more success with is just having a few players, specifically a Fist of Steel heavy on cart, just get it moved up as far as they can. Usually they'll really shut you down right around here, but if they give you the opportunity, you might as well keep moving forward. But in general, once the cart gets that far forward, I've had the most success by just walking out with the med and having the demo Uber in and try to kill the gun and force their Uber. A big thing to help you guys out to win this push is to either have your spy run behind and sap their telly at spawn, so they can't get spawners back very quickly at all, or to have your spy, if they're not spy checking too heavily, just sort of hang out nearby and prepare to sap the gun when you guys pop in. The biggest things to keep in mind when you're pushing like this is to try to always know where their sniper is, because it is definitely possible to be headshot as you're coming out of spawn through these little cracks here. So other than their sniper, possibly a spy hiding in a fairly common spot is the real only other threat. As you guys are pushing, whether this is the sort of push the cart up and just go in strat, or the suicide and you happen to get a force, or you're just going for the push now, oftentimes your flank is going to be on the right side, but the biggest reason why these pushes fail is if the flank during the Uber exchange is too far forward, or they get hurt before the Uber exchange, so they can't come in afterwards. Because of this, you really want to focus on, as a flank class, making sure you're healthy and alive for the post-Uber fight. Because as a soldier, bombing up top and getting another combo like that for the post-Uber fight, or even as a pyro, or even possibly a heavy going up top here onto playground, that's a very, very strong thing to do. And if you get that positioning, you'll almost always be able to take first. Another thing is just NG Scout can be tapping the cart and then rotating and trying to kill any flankers that are pushing up right. But overall, just making sure they're alive and healthy for the push. Additionally, from a combos perspective, you want to just push in, kill the gun if you can, force them if you can, and then back up and sort of hang out for a moment while their Uber fades, and then re-push with your flank. Hopefully you can get a kill or two with the Uber itself, but oftentimes that's not going to happen. And so usually the best bet is to just force them by trading Ubers, then back out, and then re-push with your whole team. And if your spy had sapped the telly or had sapped the gun, then you guys are set up in a favorable fight. The biggest things to keep in mind for any push on Upward First to work is having your flank, or just any class that's available, take over playground, and so they can pinch them from up top, and just making sure that the cart's forward and your team is really putting pressure on them from multiple sides. Just making sure your flank's healthy and ready to push for the post-Uber will help guarantee your success pushing Upward First. The easiest way to be successful in pushing second is to keep your momentum from first. Ideally, you'll be able to get several kills on first as you're pushing, and really open up second for your own team. The biggest things to focus on killing are their sniper, their med, their NG, and their demo. All of those kills will help you push second more easily. If you don't manage to get their med, one option you can try is, if you know they're so close while backing out, is to have your demo and or your soldier suicide up and get onto their combo and just really try to suicide for their med. You'll be spawning much faster than them, so just suiciding like that will really help your second push. Additionally, if you have lots of kills, just make sure you're rushing forward and taking as much ground as you can, as fast as you can, and then try to just hold either at this corner or all the way up near their spawn exit, and just really focus on containing their spawners. Most teams will just concede second at that point and won't really fully commit in an attempt to hold it. As you're pushing up, you usually want your med, demo, heavy, sniper, NG, scout, really anyone who's forward at the time. You want forward to lock out their spawns, but the biggest things are your combo, your pyro, and to an extent your engineer, as many sentries are really helpful for sort of controlling this large open area. Oftentimes it'll be best to just have your spy on the cart. Additionally, having the scout on the cart can be helpful as well. Engineer on cart can be alright, but I prefer to have the NG's minis forward supporting and protecting our med. But usually you want to just hold the corner as your flank classes push up the cart, and once it gets towards the mouth, if they've set up at all, the best way to break the hold, from my experience, is to have your heavy and or your soldier peek out of the window and just sort of peek out just the edge and do damage, and at the same time have your demo peek the ground here and spam them. That coordinated spam and damage will just crush pretty much every single hold. If you have Uber, that's even better. You can just Uber your demo straight in as your heavy and soldier peek up top, and they can avoid damage up there while still dealing damage, and then your Uber will just be able to push them back. If they don't have a hold set up, you can just be holding the corner and waiting for your cart pushers to get close, and then you'll be able to get the cap. A good spot to hold is right here as heavy, because you can shoot them but they can't really hit you, and so that's very strong for locking out their spawns. If they do have a hold set up, you want to try to work picks with your sniper or by just pressuring forward with your team. If their sniper is looking up towards cliff, meds should definitely try walking up this left area. You can jump up on these wooden pieces here, but if you just walk up here, unless the sniper is peeking out quite far, you'll have a safer time getting up towards the corner. If they have a forward hold setup, which has become more popular recently, usually the best bet is to try to take cliff if you can, but if they have their sniper and their demo sort of set up watching the cliff, one good option is to just sort of commit most of your team towards pushing the cart in tunnel. And as you're pushing, just be wary of flank classes coming in through this elbow, or players dropping down through there or coming behind you. But you just want to get the cart moved up, watch for the sniper at the exit. You can be buffing your own sniper, trying to get kills, and then once you get it pushed up, assuming you have Uber at that point, a good option can just be to come up through the elbow with your demo and your scout, or your demo and your heavy, and just sort of trade Uber straight into them here. Oftentimes they'll be like blobbed up near the tunnel exit, or they will have sort of backed off and tried to fight at the tunnel exit. And just coming up through elbow, biggest thing, you just gotta watch for traps and get out quickly, and then just start the Uber exchange. That's usually the best if they have a forward hold, because you can sort of catch them unaware and still get the cart up without having to waste time by trying to struggle over cliff and have your own flank struggle to push. But in general, as your combos Ubering in, you want your scout and or soldier to sort of be ready to push out through the side, and the soldier can bomb into their combo, and the post Uber and their scout can rush in and collapse. That flank pinch is very, very key to being able to sort of break that forward hold in the post Uber fight, and then you can have the rest of your team really just flooding in from everywhere. Another good option for breaking a hold that is sort of set up there, especially if they don't have a gun, is to just do sort of a high bomb like this, and then you can land right on the med's head, essentially, and it's very, very hard to see you coming. If the med's standing here healing, you'll almost be out of the sight line of the med completely, and so you can get drops and forces quite regularly doing that. Another option, if you're having a hard time with the gun, is to have your spy jump out of the window, sap the gun, and then peek from above. But in general, just having the heavy peek the window and the demo peek on the ground there will almost always be able to break the hold, and that's generally the most common hold you'll see. But again, the biggest things for pushing second is keeping your momentum and taking as much ground after your first cap as possible. And once you sort of get stabilized in this area, it's just a matter of time before you can cap. On upward third, the map really starts getting hard to push, and that's why if you can keep your momentum from second and really try to push forward aggressively onto third, it can make your upward times much, much faster. However, if you find yourself in the all too common stalemate where both teams are building Uber or have Uber and you're just sort of all sitting in house waiting for something to happen, some of the best ways to break that stalemate and start the push are to tank your sniper in-house and just try to have your sniper work picks on their demo or their sniper in particular. Another thing you can try is to have your sniper come down into this angle, and most heavies will be peeking from this sort of elbow area on the top left, and it's a fairly easy headshot for your sniper to pull off there. And killing that heavy can be very key to helping your flank push out the elbow and pinch their combo. But in general, if you're tanking your sniper and you get a kill, especially if it's their sniper, a very good strategy to try is just rotate your heals and pretty much your whole team towards cart, and just focus on protecting your sniper and letting them sort of peek over this hill and sort of force the other team back, or just allow themselves to die to your sniper. And essentially you just want to be moving the cart up while your demo and your sniper sort of spam forward and focus on locking them out. And once you sort of rotate your main force of players over here, it's going to be very hard for them to stop you unless they Uber into you to block it, in which case you can sort of kite quite easily and then re-push with advantage. So getting that sniper pick is very important to being able to push third. Another option, if you kill their demo, is you can try that same strategy, but you just got to be pretty wary of their sniper as you're doing so. But if you kill their demo, my favorite thing to do is just try to work up this choke here and get as close as you can before popping. Oftentimes you'll be able to spam them out as you're pushing, and you can get to about here before needing to use. As you're pushing up, you really need to be focused on the heavy peeking from top left. Oftentimes it's best to have your soldier, your pyro, or your heavy watching this left side as your combo's pushing forward. Once you get up towards this corner and you're ready to pop in, or if you had to pop back there and you're just sort of Ubering them back, having your soldier, pyro, or heavy push through this elbow here and pinching their combo, or just catching off anyone who's not paying attention in this side area, that can really open up kills and just pinch their combo and allow you to win the Uber exchange. Another option is to just have your soldier just go all the way behind and just drop down and flank, get a free kill on their NG or their med if they're backed up. That can be very, very effective. Additionally, just be careful about the pyro air blasting you guys off the edge and the heavy peeking top left. So the two biggest ways that a straight push like this will fail. Another option for getting a pick to open up a push is to coordinate with your spy, and when your spy is ready, just really trying to get aggressive and do some aggressive spamming to draw their attention away so your spy can get a pick. That, and then just taking the sniper to get kills, should be able to get you an opening, and then you can rotate to cart or push straight up into them depending on what kills you get. Again, if you get a sniper kill, definitely try playing cart with your heals. And as you're pushing forward, just make sure you're pressuring the top left. You don't let a soldier sit up above you. Both those things are very important. Another really good option, if it's sort of both teams' Ubers are over and it's sort of slowed down for a moment, is having your soldier bomb high like this and landing right on their combo. Again, like that second bomb, the soldier will be so high that the med likely won't see the bomber coming, and oftentimes the gun will be wrangled at this point, and so you can bomb in and get onto their combo for force or drop quite regularly. So those are sort of the main things I'd recommend for pushing third. It can be pretty hard to get picks and to just push successfully, so making sure that while you're pushing with your combo, your flank classes that are available are getting the cart worked up is very, very important, and just making sure that your flank is alive and ready to push before you actually commit with your combo is also very important, because pushing one at a time, like 5 people going in and then 4, is just not going to be successful. It's definitely worth waiting until you have everybody ready and on the same page to push. Similar to pushing third, pushing last can be very difficult, especially if they have a chance to set up. Most often you'll see guns sort of back there or right there, and they'll almost always be blocked off by a dispenser that's blocking these stairs. From my experience, the way that my teams have had the most success is if you're pushing against a team that's holding up top, which is the most common spot to hold, combo usually be in that general area, is to take over the lower area with your combo and your soldier, and get ready to sort of walk up these stairs with your combo. Oftentimes peeking this with your demo first and sort of showing them where you are and distracting them can be ideal. And then once you have lower, you want to make sure your soldier spams out and kills the dispenser, because killing that dispenser will allow your spy to get onto the NG and sap the gun. After that, you want to make sure your soldier's buffed, and then pretty much this works every time, is having your soldier bomb up. Oftentimes the med will be right here in this little area, and your soldier can get right into the combo. That's a pretty regular way to get forces or drops, or just kill the med if it's a post-tuber. Oftentimes you want to lead with that soldier bomb after your demo sort of peeks and distracts, and then right after your soldier bombs, you want to just have your demo and med walk up and go into their combo. If they do get a force, then it's best to just hang back for a moment and wait till their Uber is over to go in. While you're doing this, you want to make sure you have your heavy and or your pyro with you to sort of be watching your back in case their flank starts coming in from behind. It's a pretty dangerous thing to just sort of be sitting here without anyone watching behind, so you want to make sure people are aware of people flanking and you're set up to not just get killed in the back as a med. That's usually the best way to push up top. Another option is to just have your sniper sort of peek this angle. If the med's not paying attention, you can get a snipe on them there. And then in general, just sort of working your way up these stairs can be pretty effective. Another pretty common option is to just take over these spiral staircase and then have your sniper peek this angle. You can get a kill on the med or the demo, as someone's definitely going to be walking through that open window. But just like holding lower, you want to make sure you have people watching underneath and close to your snipers, so if they rush them, you'll be able to get the kill. Oftentimes the demo's going to have a trap right there, so be very careful about peeking that. But in general, you should be able to get picks with those 2 sniper spots, and then that sort of formulaic push with the soldier bombing and your combo walking in will do wonders against teams holding up top. If you find yourself playing a team that's sort of holding on the ground by main, oftentimes it's best to just take up top. I find that going lower or up those spiral staircase over there is the safest way to get up top. And then really you just want to try to get spam angles onto their combo. You can have your soldier, your demo, really anyone available up here, spamming down on them. A good thing for the heavy to do is walk all the way over here. You can hide around the boxes. You can do damage to people by spawn, and you can do damage to people who are holding close to main there, and that can be very effective. Something that's good for your soldier to do regardless if you're taking lower for a full-on push is to just sort of go lower and kill the dispenser, as that will just open up things for your spy. Another strong option is once you kill that dispenser, if your spy is ready, have your spy and your soldier coordinate, and then especially if the gun's up there, or even if it's back there, once the spy saps, you can just have your soldier bomb up, either get right onto the NG there, or just sort of come to this angle and spam them out. That way you can take down the gun before Ubers are even in effect, and you can save yourself a lot of trouble dealing with the Wrangler level 3 as you're trying to cap. If you have big advantage and they're not really set up, one good option to do is to just push your combo up towards their spawn, and with your Uber just try to push them back into their spawn and lock them in spawn. This can be really strong with your soldier up there spamming in this corridor, and then your heavy and demo sort of watching the main lower spawns, and that can be quite successful for pushing with advantage. Another option to consider is when you're pushing itself and you're just going for that last ditch cart effort. The biggest things to focus are their demo. That's the main thing that will shut down pushes on the cart. Another thing to really focus on for your flank and anyone else who's pushing the cart is to not all blob on the cart at once, because you can all die from the same spam. It's surprising how many teams do that. They just saw a clump on the cart thinking, oh, we gotta get ×3 and move it in now, but they end up just dying altogether. Better option is to just try to have your combo push up and lock out their spawns, and then have the people who are pushing the cart, it can be the Pyros, Soldier, Scout, NG Spy, really whoever's available, to be sort of rotating on and off the cart, so it's moving forward but you're not all exposed to spam at once. That can really make a big difference when you're pushing the cart at the end of the round. That's something to keep in mind, whether it's like a last-ditch cart push attempt or if you're just pushing after you had an Uber exchange. Really any situation that can apply. That also applies to other points as well, but particularly on last is where it comes into play. For defending first, oftentimes teams will overcommit and then open themselves up to roll on to second. So knowing when to back out and when to commit are pretty important to focus on. It's hard to get it right, so just making sure you're aware of when you want to be backing out and when you want to stay, and just practicing it really is the best way to improve. A big thing to consider if you're deciding whether to hold or not is if their med's really out of spawn yet, and if you have a teleporter still up so your spawners can get back quickly. On the second note, once you're really sort of getting down to defending, oftentimes you'll face teams who are suiciding in, so having your heavy on cliff like this, sort of look for initial bombers, and then a spy walking up the side can be very effective. Usually the heavy won't stay here that long, as they won't do continuous waves of suicides. So just trying up here to watch for suicides can be very strong, and then rotating it forward if you want to try a really aggressive hold, or if you're going to play a more standard positioning. I've had the most success with sort of playing up here with a Tomisov, as you can watch the top right and you can help the flank on left without really exposing yourself to being sniped. You can also help defend your sniper who's peeking playground in case a soldier bombs or a scout rushes him. A big thing to focus on is to not let your medic just be alone in this corner without any information coming to them. So making sure your spy is focusing on calling where their combo is and if their med's coming out of spawn can really help your pushes, or your holds rather. And just making sure your demo's healthy and your team is checking for spies so your gun doesn't get sapped and your demo, who's the main source of keeping them out with spam, doesn't get stabbed. Oftentimes demos will just sort of overextend and get picked, and so just making sure your demo's healthy and able to fight is the biggest key to success. Another really important thing to focus on is if your flank classes do not get overwhelmed on the left, and if they have to back out for health or ammo, It's very important for them to call that, and so the rest of your team knows that it's possible for people to be pushing up left pretty far. Usually with the heavy up top, the flank getting overwhelmed won't be much of a problem. The only real issues that come up is if your flank is trying to hold too aggressive and they just end up peeking the sniper and going down. So just playing more defensive is usually the best bet. Because holding first, it's the first point on payload, so it's not very important. Although you can hold it for a while if you get into a groove, but the main focus on first is just to delay them and then get out alive for holding second. But aside from keeping your flank alive and ready to defend and protecting your med and demo, you just gotta make sure your spy is not getting free saps on your NG, and if your tele goes down, that's pretty important to know because that'll really delay your spawners. So just trying to be aware of what's going on and listening to your flank and your spy's comms of where they're pushing from will help you guys be successful on holding first. Defending second successfully is pretty hard to pull off with much consistency, as getting set up for it relies on you getting out of first well and being able to keep your numbers and be set up for second, and doing that is pretty hard even for top teams. So oftentimes you'll find yourself sort of far back holding behind this corner and you're sort of at the mercy of what the other team does. But if you're back here, you really need to focus on watching out for people peeking through the window, and then also any opportunity you get, whether it's a sniper pick or a demo pick, you want to try to push forward and take ground with your combo, and so you can get sort of a solid hold setup and sort of link up with your flank so they can defend the tunnel more effectively. One option that can be good to sort of open up pushing out is just high bomb over. Oftentimes the med will just be sort of chilling in this spot and the heavy will be looking out towards the ground, and you can get 2-3 rockets off on the med, get a kill or a force, and help your team walk forward, especially if your demo's also peeking on the ground there to add spam. Oftentimes, if you're just being too passive back here, it's very hard for you to hold unless you get an early force or your pick classes are doing a really good job. Whether or not you're planning to grow aggressive with your combo, just having your soldier bomb up high and try to kill their med or at least distract them and slow them down can be quite effective. But if you find yourself in the opportunity to be holding more forward, having your combo forward on cliff, sort of denying the spot with your sniper up top here can be strong, as well as having your sniper just there in your combo farther back. Oftentimes, if your sniper is doing well and sort of locking down the spot with your demo, they'll try to shift their combo into tunnel, and so you just want to be aware of them being in tunnel, but oftentimes you don't want to like commit your combo or any sort of key classes to going in and fighting them, as you'll just be going in like 1 versus 8 or so if they're really blobbed up in there. But in general, if you're just fighting and they're not all swarming in the tunnel, having your soldier in the tunnel and just sort of roaming around and doing his best to stop the cart pushers or at least slow them down is quite important, but also making sure your soldier doesn't just die alone. So having your NG on minis aggressive with your combo can be good, especially with the Rescue Ranger and Wrangler sort of nerf to the healing rate. Another option that can work is having your gun in this position, as it can watch for people pushing through the tunnel, although it'll be much harder to keep up your level 3 now. Having a dispenser in this area is pretty solid, so you can sort of dish out heals to everybody. But the main thing is just making sure their sniper can't get positioning on hill to kill you, and that you don't bleed players by going into the tunnel alone or by getting sniped at bad situations. But overall, if you're passive, just trying to get forward and take ground is the best way to be successful, and then just trying to back out of first early enough that you'll have players alive to get set up on a strong second hold. Holding third, a big thing to keep in mind is to back out a second fast enough that you can get a solid third hold setup. as holding third and last can be very, very strong on upward. Oftentimes you want your heavy to be playing in this top right area and peeking out when there's an opportunity to do so. You gotta be really careful about sniper dots and just traps being here, so peeking sparingly and sort of waiting in this corner possibly until you know they're really committing forward can be strong. As well as sort of listening to your demo's calls of where they are. Having your soldier playing up top here can be very strong as well. They can spam right down on the combo if they try to push up, and you can do a good job of shutting down the sniper if they're trying to peek through that doorway. Coordinating the soldier and the heavy peeks with your demo spam can also sort of crush any push they're trying to make. The biggest things to focus on is keeping your demo, your med, and your sniper alive, as they can really lock down this choke point with spam and then the sniper. Another thing to keep in mind when you're holding is if you have to back up a little bit and sort of give up this corner, is to make sure your sniper and your demo are paying enough attention to the cart, as oftentimes people can just crash behind the cart and get it capped or almost capped right under your nose. If you have numbers or if they're backing up, having your soldier or your scout bomb in and try to clear cart along with your demo spamming is very important to do. Also making sure that players aren't really bleeding, especially your heavy top right, because if you lose your heavy, then players can sort of flank in and get behind or just get straight into your combo. So being aware of your heavy being alive or not is also very important. Also just watching out for people coming through shithouse, as a sniper peeking that angle or heavy coming through can cause some damage. But overall, just making sure you guys are looking forward, getting spam out and locking down this choke is going to set you up to hold very well. Just making sure you're not over peeking and opening yourself up to snipers and then to demo spam, and just trying to be aware of where their combo is, where their flank is, and just keeping everybody alive and healthy so they can keep fighting, keep them locked out. If you can do that, then you'll be able to hold third for a very long time. Additionally, with your NG often back here with his level 3, he can be pretty isolated, so be careful of spies getting onto the NG. Your pyro should try to balance time between being close to the combo, spy checking, and being in a position to reflect the Ubers, as well as sort of helping to protect the NG. So just trying to stabilize your hold, get everyone healthy, spamming forward, and be able to hold. Holding last, I've had the most success with holding up top. It's definitely the most common and sort of ideal place to hold. Oftentimes you'll see teams on the ground if they don't have time or the opportunity to set up top. But in general, when you're holding up top, you need to be very careful of the sniper sight lanes through main and then through the staircase. Oftentimes having the heavy watching this angle and then body blocking can make it harder for spies to get through, as well as just locking down anything that's coming that direction. While it's not very common, soldiers bombing up from underneath is a pretty big problem, so having players aware is very important. Oftentimes when you're up top, you want your med, demo, heavy, and then your soldier and or pyro. Oftentimes you'll have your soldier more focused on spamming this angle here and trying to slow them down or lock them out. Your demo can also help with traps there, and you can spam down to main, but in general, if you can sort of stay alive and keep them locked out there with spam, you'll be able to hold quite well. Having your pyro up top to air blast spam, air blast bombers, and air blast Uber is also very useful, but having your pyro sort of roaming free to scope out lower can also be good for disrupting their pushes. Another option to consider is if they're pushing through lower, having your soldier buffed, and then you can drop down and flank very quickly like that. Also, if they are pushing up these front stairs here, as I call them, a very good option for your team is just to kite forward with your whole combo, as you can avoid their Uber and then sort of lock them out or kill them by coming back in them. If you're close to Uber, that's very good because you can just Uber straight back into them. Or you can just kite and avoid their Uber and then push forward, and you can usually catch a flank class or two unaware in the spiral staircase. But in general, just making sure you don't bleed players and you're aware of the sniper sight lines will let you hold pretty successfully up top. Your NG will be fairly isolated, and the spy will eventually be able to kill the gun if they take down the dispenser. So just making sure that you guys are getting calls from your flank and your spy of where their combo is, so you can react to them pushing the spiral staircase or the front stairs effectively is very important. Additionally, if they're pushing into lower to try to walk up these front stairs, having your soldier or your pyro drop down here and flank them can be good, as oftentimes you might have their med sort of sitting here healing the demo at range, so you can get right into their combo. But oftentimes pushing in like that is pretty risky, so you should only do it if you have clear comms on where they are. Oftentimes, if they're Ubering up this way, it's best to just solo Uber on your heavy and body block them so they can't get in. You need to be careful about a carpet of stickies being under you in the post Uber. So another option is just to back off and just sort of play here as heavy, let your demo body block and spam them down. But oftentimes the heavy will be the person who's in position here. You can also have your pyro here to air blast them back, and then have a full health heavy here watching for a soldier bomb, and then able to peek down into them if they continue to push. But overall, if your soldier is getting pressured hard here, just making sure your demo or your heavy rotates there to help. It's very important. Overall, to have a successful last hold up top is just to be listening to comms and reacting appropriately to where they're pushing. If you find yourself in sort of a last-ditch hold, or you're just holding on the ground, it's important for the med to know and jump out and get back to spawn like that. Pretty much all classes can do it, except for maybe heavy. If it's really getting down to the wire, having your heavy here can be very strong to shut down cart pushers. And then really making sure your demo and your soldier are alive and able to spam the cart and sort of deny their pushers can be very useful, as well as keeping your NG alive and hopefully the level 3 gun, although with the nerfs to the Wrangler and Rescue Ranger it's harder to keep it alive. But in general, just sort of playing around the cart, focusing on people who are trying to push, and just sort of working your way around so you're not opened up to get killed, but you're still able to fight. You can really prolong a last hold. To be successful in Upward, the biggest thing to keep in mind is to not lead players unnecessarily on defense, and if you're losing, to just give up the point and get a good hold set up on the next one. And especially for offense, make sure whenever you have an opening to be pushing forward aggressive and trying to keep your momentum going, as doing that will allow you to really open up rounds and just roll on through every point.